colleagues, welcome and thank you for joining us today for the official launch of the MK College Group and our new strategy 2021 to 2026, Building Fairer Futures. Before we talk about the future, I just wanted to say once again, on behalf of my whole leadership team and the Board of Governors, thank you for continuing to go above and beyond over the past 18 months.
For over a year, the world has been suffering. We know how tough it has been for you and your loved ones. In March 2020, as the campuses of MK College closed for most students, there was a challenge to overcome. As we emerge on the other side, we wanted to say thank you to all staff, students, employers and partners who played a part. Take Hayden, for example. He's part of the tireless IT team that got laptops to students who needed them. Thanks, guys. Then there's the teachers.
Everyone awake? Excellent, let's get started.
This is Clifford, just one of hundreds of you who learned a completely different way of working on the fly. I mean, come on. It would have been easy to play favourites, but our team fulfilled their responsibility to everyone.
How many more of these do the prisons need?
I'm not going to lie to you, we need a lot more.
Sue was part of the team that made sure every prison got what it needed. And all the hard work to get us through was followed by hard work to get us ready. The estates team got the environment ready, and we helped get a new crop of students ready.
We did it! We just wrapped our first virtual open event.
So as we prepare to finish this academic year and look forward to brighter times ahead, we have two simple words for everyone who helped to get us here.
Thank you.
Wow, what a fantastic film. I feel quite emotional, and thank you to everyone who took part, and thank you to everybody again for the amazing work you've done over the last 15 months. I'm delighted to be joined by College Governor Alan Cook CBE and Staff Governor Anissa Shah, who will help in this first session as we introduce you to our group vision, purpose and aims. We will then have a series of conversations with colleagues and friends from our communities to talk about fairness and why it sits at the heart of our group strategy and the impact it can have on those we touch. So before we get into the strategy in detail, what is MK College Group and why has it been created? First and foremost, the creation of the group is as a result of your hard work over the past 5 years. This work led us to move to an Ofsted Good position and to stabilise our finances to achieve ESFA Good status, something that has been achieved at a time where others in the sector are finding it increasingly difficult. We have also been recognised externally, being trusted with 28 million to deliver the Institute of Technology, winning a contract in partnership with MK Council to support those who have lost their jobs due to the pandemic, and being shortlisted for four TES Excellence Awards, for teaching, for digital technologies, for employer engagement, and our work to become financially secure. So without losing focus on any of this progress made, the formation of the MK College Group and the creation of this strategy gives us the opportunity to look beyond what we do and to start to think about the change that we as an organisation want to see in our communities. Milton Keynes College, the South Central Institute of Technology, our incredible prison work and our commercial businesses will be united under MK College Group. The MK College Group has been created to connect and represent colleagues across the organisation. give our employers one point of contact to be able to access the increasing portfolio of what we do, and allow us to have a stronger voice in our communities, the region and the sector. The group has a clear vision: to use the power of education to create opportunities, champion talent and build fairer futures. Our group purpose highlights how we will achieve this. We will inspire positive social change in the people and communities we serve through delivering exceptional learning experiences to transform lives, achieving our vision of a fairer future for all. So not only will we continue to deliver exceptional learning experience with students at the heart of what we do, we will use our voice to speak up for those who are left behind and suffer from the status quo, and influence change in our wider communities. How will we do this? I'm delighted now to hand over to Alan and Anissa to talk through our Building Fairer Futures strategic aims and core objectives, rooting our positive intent in what we will deliver over the next 5 years. Over to you, Alan.
Thank you, Julie. Well, I'm here today on behalf of David Meadowcroft and my Governor colleagues, and are genuinely excited to be able to bring to you our new strategy. As Julie has mentioned, the strategy is set over 5 years. Now, this might be a surprise given the likely uncertainties ahead as the country, and indeed the world, looks to recover from a pandemic which has taken such a heavy toll on people's lives, businesses and the wider economy. However, the 5-year timeframe is designed to offer stability and a really clear set of principles for us to work towards. Our strategic aims are designed to be adaptable enough to remain relevant over the duration, with core objectives designed to give us measurable objectives on the roadmap to us delivering the strategy. So we have 6 aims, and as part of this strategy, which has been designed to be equally applicable for whichever part of the organisation you are in. Our first aim is to drive aspirational, innovative and student-focused educational experiences. We want aspiration to be at the heart of our learning experiences across the group. We will innovate and ensure that we learn lessons from across the group to benefit all students. Progress will be measured through self-assessment, which will be extended beyond Ofsted quality measures to additionally capture direct student experience feedback. Our second aim is to develop meaningful partnerships to grow our influence and create opportunities. With the expanding role of Milton Keynes as part of the Oxford, MK and Cambridge ARC and the Growth Corridor, this aim seeks to analyse our regional skills needs to explore opportunities to influence and grow. This analysis and plan will be conducted in 2021 with a new core objective, the likely outcome of this work. Our third aim is to achieve and maintain financial and operational sustainability. We really do have a compelling reason to do this, aiming to reinvest £2 million on directly enhancing student experiences by 2023. Any investments we make and growth we achieve must be sustainable, not only in terms of finances, but in our environmental impact and carbon footprint. So I'm now going to hand over to my colleague and staff governor, Anissa Shah.
Thanks, Alan. Really glad to be here to take you through our final 3 aims. Our fourth aim is to deliver the skills needed by employers to aid productivity. We know that productivity is a key national priority linked to the governmental industrial strategy. FE colleges are seen as the key to unlock employer productivity, and the FE White Paper gives colleges a greater role in identifying and responding to employer needs. We will measure this aim through direct feedback from our employers and partners. Our penultimate aim is to promote and live fairness, equality, diversity and inclusion. Fairness is embedded throughout this strategy and is at the heart of our vision and purpose. This aim compels us to become a beacon first in ensuring that everything we do is inclusive, but also in influencing others to do likewise. We will work with our communities to validate and assess our progress and commit to publishing updates against our plans. And our final aim, but by no means least, is to create organisational unity around our shared vision and purpose. We believe that the creation of MK College Group and our inspiring vision to create fairer futures can give a true sense of purpose across the organisation, which will ultimately help us to retain and recruit the best possible people. Employee engagement, as our measure within our Peak and Pulse survey, looks at various measures to give an overall engagement level. Our target score of 8 would make us an employer of choice within the sector and our region. We are now going to take you through how we propose to implement the strategy. We have developed an updated strategy wheel, which some of you will remember from our previous strategy. This highlights how we will implement the strategy. Sustainability acts as a solid foundation for our strategy. It ensures that the decisions we make, the processes we create, and the opportunities we support allow us to create sustainable impact from a financial perspective, but also the well-being of our staff and students and the environment. Culture also supports a shared understanding and empowerment of individuals. It ensures a consistent set of behaviours across the group, the way we do things around here. Alan will now take you through the final elements of the wheel.
Thanks, Anissa. So product refers to the programmes and services we deliver. The aim of this quadrant is ensuring that our programme or services deliver excellence, which is what is required by our community and creates opportunities for our students, customers and employers. Place is the sense of our own civic responsibility and the role we play within our communities, providing thought leadership within our region and the ARC in the wider education sector, in our specialist prison and technology communities around the themes that we choose to support. These quadrants will be supported by our enablers of being digital driven, inclusive and values led, focusing on people and partnerships and ensuring that our students have the best possible experience.
So thank you, Minister, for joining us to be part of the launch of the Milton Keynes College Group's brand new strategy, Building Fairer Futures. For you, as the Skills Minister, what do you think colleges can do to play an important role in increasing opportunities and fairness in society?
Well, thanks very much, Julie, and I look forward to reading the strategy. Colleges are absolutely vital. They're a key pillar to delivering our skills reform and our skills reform agenda. I mean, what are colleges? Colleges are, first of all around the country, so every part of the country has access to an FE college, and they have a whole range of different courses, different opportunities. There's really many different career choices that are available via the FE route. And I think that's a key part, no matter where you are in the country, what barriers you've had so far, what particular support you need to overcome those barriers, or what kind of careers, whether it's a technical career or a digital career, what are the sort of careers that you're considering? Everything is available in an FE college, and I think that's really why they're a vital pillar. They really can be very flexible, and of course they work very well with employers as well. So I think that's one of the reasons that we think FE colleges are a vital part of our skills agenda and a vital part of our skills providers going forward.
Thank you so much for that. I know how much it means to all of the staff here at Milton Keynes College and the students that we have a Minister for Apprenticeship and Skills who has experienced firsthand their own apprenticeship and who is really working so hard to promote the work that colleges do and to recognise the great impact that colleges can have on increasing opportunities and fairness in communities. So thank you very much for your time today, Minister.
Well, just on that point, Julie, I also went to an FE college as part of my apprenticeship, so I absolutely do understand all the parts of the journey. And, if you've ever been in that situation where, like I was, you're sat in a comprehensive school and you're not quite sure what's available to you and how you're going to get from there to a decent job, an FE college was a key part of my journey, and I very much appreciated it at the time. And I know many people really appreciate the support they get at college and the learning they get in college, which enables them to transform their lives. And you never know where you can end up.
Excellent. Even as Minister for Skills, which is amazing. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Julie.
And what a great endorsement of the college strategy from one of our government ministers. I'd now like to introduce myself for those who don't know me. My name is Sally Alexander and I'm Group Principal at Milton Keynes College, responsible for quality and the student experience. And I'd like to hand over to my colleague Alex, who will introduce himself also.
Thank you very much, Sally. And I'm Alex Warner, another one of the group principals responsible for curriculum and innovation. And we're delighted to be joined today by both Rob and Paul. We'll hand over to Paul to introduce himself first.
So Paul Gartside, curriculum developer and coach for data analytics and cybersecurity.
And Rob, can we bring you into the room?
Yeah, sure. Hiya, I'm Rob Breeden. I'm the Operations Service Manager for ABB Robotics, UK and Ireland.
Fantastic. Great, thanks very much. And we want to start today really to ask you a bit about what you actually did with us as students at Milton Keynes College. So, Paul, if I start with you, what did you do?
I did a BTEC National Diploma in Computer Studies in the last century.
And Rob, how about you?
Yeah, so I studied electrical and electronic engineering principles. It was 2 years working for a 4-year apprenticeship within ABB itself.
Fantastic. So could we hear a little bit more about your journey then? So Paul, you alluded to the last century. So we're really keen to hear a little bit more about what sort of skills or experiences that you gained whilst you were at college and how that might have prepared you for your career journey.
Sure. Okay. So so this is we're going right back here, 1988. So a long time ago. I was never much of an academic. To be honest with you, I'm much more hands-on. I like to get involved with technology, or what I didn't realise was technology back then. We're going a long time ago. For me, I was also very insular. I didn't get out much. I wasn't very sociable. So college for me was a different experience. It was going out, meeting people. I wasn't very confident. So university, I'd kind of pushed off as an idea to one side. But college was a nice balance between sort of transitioning out of school and continuing with my education. So it gave me an opportunity to spread my wings, but not too much, and meet new people and have new conversations. And for me, that was an enlightening experience. I enjoyed it a lot, but I also discovered that actually I'm coin operated. I like to work. So when I was done with college, I was confident enough to actually just go into the workplace, and that really worked for me.
Fantastic. And then Rob, can we hear a little bit more about your experience? So Paul studied as a full-time learner. I think you said about your apprenticeship experience. So can we hear about your apprenticeship experience with the college group?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm in also sort of like a similar situation when I was at school. I wasn't much of an academic. I kind of, I'm through and through an engineer. So I learned practically by doing and with my hands and just getting really stuck into it. So I always kind of knew that I wanted to be an engineer. It was always kind of the fit and feel really for me, just as a career path. So when I started looking, I was very fortunate enough that Milton Keynes College was within reach of myself, and there was a lot of key people within the college who sort of enabled me to have the transparency of what actually an engineering apprenticeship was and how it kind of could fit me as much as me fitting into the college. They gave me opportunities to be able to look at job advertisement and pointed me in the right direction for career opportunities within businesses within Milton Keynes. I was fortunate enough to actually get an apprenticeship with ABB Robotics, where I'm currently still working. And then the 4-year journey kind of continued along those roads with Milton Keynes College. The whole education piece within Milton Keynes College really enabled key stepping stones throughout my career at ABB. So I've been with ABB for the last 10 years. I started when I was 16, back in 2011. And I've had a few different job roles. So I did 4 years as an engineering apprentice working within R&A, and then moved to the customer service side of the business, where I was looking after a large integrator in the UK on site. I then did sort of a global sort of projects type role, and again, each time I sort of moved roles, I've had the key foundations of what those roles are and the sort of the key learning outcomes that would almost support the role in itself. And then from there, within the last 3 years, I've moved from practical hands-on into a management career where I actually have 2 engineering apprentices of my own now.
Fantastic. That sounds really impressive, Rob. And it sounds like for both of you that actually having been at Milton Keynes College has really been able to impact on your lives in a much wider way than just simply giving you a qualification or setting you up for a job. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Paul.
Well, for me, the real thing that made the difference was the actual tutors themselves. I remember most of them were from industry, so they had real-world experience. I had no idea of what I was going to be going into. So I made the most of actually spending time with them, talking to them, understanding their journey. And that helped me make that transition. I was already very keen and very interested to get into business, but I needed to know a bit more, I needed to understand a bit more. Like I said, not academic. I wanted to speak to people who had actually done business in the real world. And of course, when I was at college, apprenticeships didn't exist. Having seen them from the inside now and seeing how they operate, they are a truly wonderful way of someone transitioning from school into the workplace, perhaps where university isn't a good fit. And this gives a diversity of opportunity for people. So I definitely, had they existed when I was around, I'd have probably been very interested in that.
There's some great insights, Paul. So Rob, at college, we often talk about the development of knowledge, skills and behaviours. Obviously, knowledge referring to sort of that technical knowledge and specifically the qualification. But what about skills and behaviours? What is it that you think you learned and developed with your time with us at Milton Keynes College?
Yeah, so throughout the sort of the college and the work-based learning, there's a whole change that an individual almost has to go through as an apprentice. And I probably didn't see it so much when I was an apprentice, but I see it more now. I'm coaching apprentices in the business where I was 6 or 7 years ago. And the behaviours, the foundations of the professionalism that the individual has to present within a business and the way that they do present themselves are key from sort of how the college sort of embeds that into sort of like the work-based sort of environment, how those kind of behaviours should be sort of implemented by an individual within their day-to-day business and how they sort of act. So it's almost going from a schooling sort of environment into a more professional work-based environment where you're doing the applied learning and it's a career. And that's what I explained to my apprentices that I have now. I said, we as a business are paying for you to go to college, which is fantastic, and the college supports that sort of level of professionalism that has to be sort of taken on board.
Thanks, Rob, for pointing out professionalism, obviously one of the key behaviours that we hope to instill in all of our students. So coming back over to you then, Paul, obviously what did your professional journey look like from your time as a student and to sort of where you are now?
Okay, so yeah, the job market then was really, really different. So when I left college, the best advice I got which was from one of the tutors. He said, look, doesn't matter what skills you have or you don't have in terms of technical ability. Companies don't hire for technical ability, they hire for attitude. If you have the right attitude, everything else can be learnt. You can be taught that in a working environment. So, okay, I took him at his word. I wrote a bunch of letters, sent them out to companies to say, can I have a job? And Research Machines are actually an educational computer hardware company, gave me a job as a tester in their BIOS department, actually, back when companies used to write their own firmware for computers. And I learned a great deal. I was there for a couple of years, and I moved around several companies for sort of the next 10 years, really. Then I found my dream job. And it was working for what was Dr. Solomon's Security, which became McAfee Security a couple of years later. And I started as a network analyst, so still very technical. But after a while, because it's a really, really big company, but I'd learned a lot of skills in very smaller, much smaller companies, I had an opportunity to step into management. And that was my first opportunity, really becoming a manager of a department. I grew my own department. In fact, I begged, borrowed, or stole equipment to set up a department, and then I asked for permission to set the department up. Once it was running, and so Dr. Alan Solomons, came around and had a look at my department, which I'd set up in a back room, and he said, well, I guess we probably better give you the job. And I never looked back, to be honest with you. Quite ambitious, quite keen for new opportunities, and I kept progressing through the company, both in the UK and internationally, to a point where I got to be Global Vice President of Data Protection and Encryption for research and development globally. Which was a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I spent 15 years traveling around the world working with engineers in many different countries and seeing how effectively their new staff journeys going up and into the business. But there was one pervasive thing which the whole industry, the whole technology industry is somewhat reliant upon, and I think it's missing a trick, which is they recruit almost purely from universities. And that gets them a certain demographic, and it gets them a certain knowledge set, but they don't look at the other educational institutions. Now I think it's something that's starting to open up, but it's an opportunity that I think businesses are yet to fully capitalize on in terms of spreading its workforce, diversifying its workforce, not just in terms of ethnicity and in gender, but also in ways of thinking, because colleges approach different ways of thinking. They, like I said, the less academic approach, the more practical, hands-on, learning by doing and exploring by doing is something that colleges are very, very well suited to doing.
Thanks, Paul. Some really interesting insights about attitudes towards learning and developing. I'm going to now ask you both for some closing remarks, any final thoughts that you want to share with our audience or for students who are on their journey. So, Rob, I'm going to come to you on screen first. Do you have any closing remarks for those who are viewing?
Yeah, I would say always remain sort of optimistic and with an open view. I've never had a direct set plan for my career, but I've always remained open-minded because you never know what the journey is going to take next. And don't just look at the face value of maybe where you are at the minute. Just focus on the future and always keep the enjoyment of the career and job as one of the number one key aspects.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And Paul, over to you.
Okay, so very much for any potential students thinking about going along this path, I think the best advice I could give anyone is never underestimate the power of asking a question in ignorance. Just because you don't know something, that's not a bad thing. I've seen a lot of students go into businesses, ask a question because they simply didn't know any better, and actually that generated a light bulb moment with a long-term employee and had them look at a problem in a different way. So yeah, as Rob said, optimism, enthusiasm, embrace ignorance and embrace an opportunity to learn.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And then for me, to sort of close, what I've heard today was we spoke about knowledge, skills and behaviours and how we talk about holistic development of individuals. I really liked the points around confidence, we've heard about resilience, we've spoken about individuals' attitude, and I think all of those will serve prospective students and all of us as employees at the college group very well. So thank you both very much for your time and input.
I think as a closing word from me, I really appreciated the comments that Paul made about the diversity of backgrounds that all of our students can come from, and I think that's the beauty of us as a Milton Keynes College group, that we can work with people across the spectrum to help them achieve the skills that they need to be successful as they move on in their lives. Okay, we're now going to move on to the part of the session where we start to engage with some of our employers.
Thanks, Sally, and welcome to our next session where I'll be speaking to a couple of local business owners about the importance of fairness in the workplace and how they feel the college group can impact. But first, let's do some introductions. I'm Anna Clark, Director of Employer Engagement for MK College Group. I'll now ask my guests to introduce themselves. Precious?
Thank you, Anna. My name is Precious Zumbi Kalawanga and I am a business owner. I'm co-founder and CEO of Perspective Limited.
Matt?
Hi, my name is Matt. I am a salon owner and I work with apprentices from Milton Keynes College.
Thank you very much. So thank you for joining us and giving your time. My first question to you is really this. How important is fairness to you both from both the business perspective but also personally? Precious?
Thanks, Anna. I think fairness is a big topic at the moment, so it's of absolute importance to me. I think particularly as a woman and as a black woman, I touch two areas of the Equality Act. And I think it's very important for organizations to understand that, having fairness as part of their makeup just creates an environment that's just so vibrant. So it's absolutely important to me.
Thank you. And Matt?
For me, fairness in the workplace, I think it allows people to improve, progress, develop skills, and create a really nice working atmosphere.
Yeah, I agree. And what do you see as the challenges, both of you, for holding us back from a fairer society?
I think fear of change. I think the country, the world has been going through a dramatic change in the last probably say 18 months. Change has been happening over the last probably 10, 15 years for those that have been working in this space. But dramatic change has now allowed people to be having those uncomfortable conversations. So I think the uncomfortable conversations before were a massive barrier and were probably the hindrance that companies and organizations probably feared the most, to be fair.
Okay, thank you. So Matt, I know you were once apprentice at the college. How does that change your perspective? And why do you feel it's important to invest back in training new apprentices?
So for me, my apprenticeship helped me to develop all sorts of different skills that maybe I wouldn't have been able to develop on a full-time programme. My apprentices within the salon give me the chance to develop a new workforce that understand me, understand my outlook, can work well together with other people in my salon who have the same ethos, and it's developing the next generation of people in this industry, which is desperately needed, and I feel that we as owners training these apprentices need to work with them to retain them within the business rather than move them on to somewhere else.
Thank you, Matt. I think it's really important and you do an amazing job at it. And Precious, I know you dedicate a lot of your time to supporting initiatives such as Women Leaders and actually our own Friends and Allies network. Why is this so important to you?
I think it's having groups of people that are on the same agenda. So Women Leaders, for example, it's an amazing organization and initiative, because what it does is it just raises the profile of the amazing women within Milton Keynes that are doing exceptional work, and it just changes the narrative. So being part of those sorts of organizations for me is fulfilling from a personal point of view, but it's also being part of that activating that change. Friends and Allies Network for me, again, absolutely important. Milton Keynes College is the pinnacle of further education in Milton Keynes. So again, being part and influencing or actually contributing to a platform that is really embedding organizations, businesses, professionals with the further education space just allows those different viewpoints and that activation again of change. I keep talking about change, but the activation of change and having one voice to a cause that is so important, like creating fair futures.
Excellent, thank you. And obviously we've just been through a huge period of change. What impact do you think the pandemic has had on equality in your own sectors? Precious?
So for me, I wear two hats. So I'm in construction. I'm a construction professional, and I also have the PR, comms, and content business. From a construction point of view, I think it's made, I suppose, organisations realise the need to be a little bit more agile. So it's so important for them to realise that where they had, I suppose, access to resource, access to staff, access to trades, access to skills, that was impacted during the pandemic. So I think thinking out of the box now for organisations to realise that growing natural talent within the United Kingdom and actually creating opportunities for and raising the profile of that industry, particularly with construction, is something that I do on a day-to-day basis, or I plug into, raising the profile of the construction industry and making it attractive for people that look like me and people that look like you, Anna, for women to find it attractive. So opening up that pool of resource that was never ever attracted to it, I think the pandemic has probably heightened that now, that we need to think out of the box in terms of where resource and trade comes from.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Matt, for yourself?
So obviously we were heavily impacted by COVID. It shut the industry down for a fair amount of time over the last 2 years. I think the biggest impact for my industry will be on the apprentice cohort. I think salons will find it difficult to keep people employed who aren't generating them an income at this time, which is really sad for those individuals. And I hope that the salons will see the value in keeping those people. I also, alongside the salon, I work for a homeless charity in Milton Keynes, and you can see the impact there massively from COVID. People who were self-employed or had regular day-to-day jobs ended up being in the system as homeless. It just shows that actually something simple like a virus can cause you to go from having everything you think you need to having nothing at all. So,
thank you, Matt. So ultimately, what do you see as being the most important role the college has in helping create fairer futures for our students? Matt?
I think working with employers to try and create space for apprentices to be kept in their workforce is one way. Another way would potentially be to work with the more vulnerable communities that don't necessarily have those options open to them normally.
All right, thank you. And Precious?
I just want to add to what Matt's just said. I think it's also understanding the community within which the college is serving, and understanding some of the barriers that are societal barriers that are existing in Milton Keynes, and making those steps to attract talent that normally would not have even looked at the college as an option for them. So it's starting from grassroots level, actually raising the profile of the college within the community and making it accessible for all. I think will create that, that will create a natural transition to the apprenticeships that Matt has just talked about. And then also the transition into employment. So I think it's starting from grassroots and actually understanding the societal nuances, the societal barriers, and then the college infiltrating the community and breaking those barriers down and attracting and making the college accessible to all, I think would be fantastic. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us today and sharing your views so openly. And now over to Annie, Chief People Officer.
Okay, thank you. That was such an interesting session. I'm hoping this session is going to be as equally interesting, and I'm sure it will be, because I've got a couple of guests with me. I've got Caroline Calderbank, who is joining us from Prison Services, and I'll get Caroline to explain a little bit more about her role in just a second. And I've also got Kat McKiernan as well, who joins me in person, so that's really lovely, and Kat will explain a little bit more about what she does too. So firstly, Kat, can I ask you to introduce yourself and your role and what you do at the college?
Yep, so I manage the Adult English and Maths department at college. I'm a deputy head of school. I'm also a curriculum innovator for English, so I look after functional skills English with study programmes, adults, apprentices, so all across campus.
Okay, that's lovely. Welcome. Thanks very much for joining me. Caroline, how about you?
Yes, I am the education manager at HMP Garth, which is in the north of England. We're a team of about 20 support staff and tutors, and we manage, I manage the prison education department, and we teach everything to our learners from functional skills, business, peer mentoring, art, so quite a broad spectrum of subjects.
Okay, that's lovely. Well, you're very welcome too. Sorry you can't join us in person, but thanks for beaming in. So in what sort of ways do you think the Fairer Future strategy would be relevant to you and your team particularly, if you wouldn't mind going first, Kat?
Yeah, I think it's really relevant because it's all about upskilling for the local area and in response to employer need, which we know English and Maths is imperative and really important for career progression and for progression with education as well. So that's kind of meeting it, you know, like looking at what's required in the local area. Also, I was really happy to see on the strategy particular reference to curriculum design and development, and I know that everyone in the English and Maths team will be really happy to see that they're forefront as part of the strategy.
Okay, so do you think it's got relevance to you and your team? Okay,
yes,
all right, no, that's lovely, thank you. Caroline, how about you? When you've read the strategy, how did you think it was relevant to you and to your team?
For me, I mean, it was particularly relevant within prison education. Our purpose is to give our learners the opportunities to improve their lives, obviously whilst they're in custody, and then again upon release. You know, every day we go to work and genuinely believe that what we do in those classrooms has the power to change their lives. And it might sound a little bit cliched, but the strategy really sort of fits with that. And I think it can only be a positive thing and relevant for our learners, but also for our staff as well.
Okay, all right, that's helpful. So you don't feel you need to sort of shoehorn it in too much. You think people will read that and see how it fits in with the roles that they do and the roles that they play in their wider communities.
Absolutely,
okay, right.
I think it sits quite nicely with what we try to achieve every day.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. So thinking about the Fairer Future strategy, you both have now read it. In what sorts of things or what sorts of activities do you think you could engage with individuals in your team? Knowing the individuals in your team, how could you engage with them, do you think, to bring it to life? Kat and Caroline. Kat, do you want to go first?
Yeah, that's fine. So I think the focus on curriculum development and delivery is great. We could work with staff on kind of deepening their practice. We're bringing online options, for example, for a couple of courses this year, so that's widening the offer so that it's meeting, you know, more of community need.
How about yourself, Caroline? Is there things that you think that you can do, thinking about the individuals within your team, that you can use the Fairer Future strategy with and sort of bring it to life for them?
Absolutely. I think for me and for my team at Garth, what it is about is having those conversations when we introduce the strategy in the first instance. I think sometimes they can be a bit daunting, can't they? They're very wordy documents and staff can sort of switch off and not engage. So for me, it's about sort of introducing it slowly to them through team briefings, then having small focus groups within the team, ideally so that it becomes embedded in everything we do within the prison day to day. So it's not just a strap line or it's not just a poster on the wall, but it's something that we live every day, something that we believe in for our learners and for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that sounds really good. I think from a people services perspective that we often find that strategy is something that people will often say, managers also, that it's something that just exists, as you say, on a wall or in a filing or in a document. It's not relevant to the day-to-day, and I suppose what we would like to do is ensure that people do feel that there's something in it for them. And I think the strategy is nice and broad, so there really should be something for them, but we really need our managers and our individuals to really engage with it to bring it to life. So that's great that you've got some ideas around that. The other thing I think it's probably worth mentioning, and I know we've talked about it a little bit before, but we, as you know, have launched Buddy. We launched Buddy last summer, which is our new HR information system, HRIS. And we have lots of functionality in that, and one of the aspects of that is actually the ability to use check-ins or one-to-ones and record those. And there's also ability within that system to hook documents on photographs, or indeed, other documents, maybe appraisal documents or PDR documents. So it's got lots of functionality to hold and act as a repository for all sorts of information. So there are plenty of screenshots and training available for people who want to use that, and it's available now for individuals and for managers. But given what I've just chatted through, just the overview that I've talked through there, how do you think you might engage your team members in using these tools and using this information to enhance both their roles and also as well their kind of career journey through MK College Group?
Shall I go first?
Go, Kat.
Yeah. So I think that we'll use it initially to replace, I tend to check in one-to-one with staff once every half term, so about once every 6 weeks. And I think it's quite good to meet with them and check that they understand their role in the larger strategy, so they understand their piece within that and how important what they do is. I quite like the idea of it being either driven by a manager or another staff member, so you can kind of log it up and save it all in one place. I was thinking about application for things like a return to work plan, or even just tracking targets that you've talked about together. I like the flexibility that you can decide to set is it called targets? Objectives, or you can just have a check-in, and you can kind of do that mid-conversation, or you can change the type of the type of review that you're having. And yes, certainly it's a good place to just review what you last spoke about together. I think there's more chance now for growing your teams. There's a space for positive development rather than kind of waiting for formal. You can of course address the organisational KPIs within that, but it's going to be broken down to each person's part within that, so it's going to be focused. I think good focus time for staff.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the importance of one-to-ones, I think, or check-ins is immense and can't be overstated, I think. And so it's a tool to help you do that, but actually do it in a sort of timely way, in a meaningful way to that individual, which gives them context. So I think you've started to think about that really well, Kat. Thank you. Caroline, would you add anything to that from a prison services perspective specifically?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different in prison services because obviously we're still bound contractually to have the annual appraisal, and I think generally that's been sort of something that we do once a year, and then you kind of come back and revisit it. And sometimes I think the objectives and the targets that get set for staff can be sort of lost, or they don't get followed up fully. And I think this really allows us to sort of focus on a particular objective and a particular target for staff, and really follow that through, with those more frequent progress monitoring chats. And I love the fact that it's that two-way process, and it's giving staff that ownership over their own targets, their own objectives, and their own pathway with the college, which I think in the current system we use in prison services is sometimes a little bit restrictive. So I think it's great that it's giving us that extra flexibility within prison services.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's really good. I mean, I'm hoping it will be the sort of best of all worlds, really, because there will be some individuals too, I know, who will absolutely value that formal sit-down, set objectives, know where I'm going. Equally, there'll be those other people that want things that are a bit more agile, dare I say, a bit more kind of the moment, relevant to them of the moment. And I think it allows everybody really to do the blend of things that they want to, and hopefully bring the strategy to life. I also like the way, Caroline, you mentioned about taking ownership of their pathway, and I think the development piece is so important as well. Hopefully it allows people to kind of track what they want to do, whether that be some professional development or indeed just some on-the-job type opportunities that they want to take advantage of, and for that to be kind of tracked and noted down too. So that's lovely. Thank you so much. Kat and Caroline, you're both in the in Transform, which is our management development training group, and I know you're in different cohorts for that, but it's so lovely to be working with you both in that context. And I know in those sessions, or in some of those sessions, we've touched on strategy and we've touched on change management in our workshops. So what would you advise your fellow managers, either those who are on Transform or your fellow managers to do as a first priority when they're considering how the Fairer Future strategies relates to their work and their teams? Is there anything that you would kind of be doing or thinking about as you take the strategy out to your teams?
Yeah, so I'd meet probably one-to-one using the review system and make sure that each staff member that I line manage directly had a good understanding of it and their part towards that. I also think it would be a good idea to have perhaps a training session or some like a central place for everything from people services and the marketing and everything around the launch of the new strategy, and that they could access maybe some training guides, or perhaps we could have people along to wider meetings, and just so that they've got a deeper understanding of everyone and everything rather than just our team within that.
Okay, no, that's really good. And people services, and I'll be interested if you think this would be useful, but are thinking of running some surgeries, some almost open sessions, if you like, for managers to come along and to kind of explore how they could maybe introduce the strategy on a page idea or a balanced scorecard or a dashboard, just to kind of make it live and breathe a little bit within their teams. And also as well opportunities for team members to get involved with other objectives across the college, not the ones that just relate to their team, but actually broader college-wide ones, because that's been great for Transform, hasn't it? Working with different people from prison services.
Yeah,
I think that's one of
the
the more cross-college activities we can do, the better. Caroline, over to you. How would you answer that question? Have you got some thoughts around that?
Yeah, quite similar. I mean, first of all, I think communication with anything like this is absolutely key. You know, breaking the strategy down into those sort of bite-sized chunks, having those small focus groups within the team itself. Because I think if staff feel engaged and they feel included within the policy, then they're going to get that buy-in. They're going to locally, they're going to own it. We can really implement it and really get it to work for our learners and for our staff. And I think for me, you know, if we could have, as Kat's already said, that sort of inclusion, get some people from people services up to Garth or marketing. And I think that extra element from the college, I think within prison services, sometimes we tend to feel quite isolated. So to have that extra input from our colleagues across the college would be absolutely fantastic. We would love to have that. And then it brings it to life as well for the staff. It's different set of eyes, different perspectives. And I think that's what will really bring the whole strategy to life.
Yeah, and I think, thank you, that's great. And I think a good strategy, well articulated, well communicated, can be a real energizer for an organisation. And I think that's what we would really hope. One of the objectives, as you'll know, is to unify the college or unify the group behind our strategy. And I think there's a real opportunity for us to do that. So I'm really looking forward to working with all managers, but particularly both of you in terms of actually doing that. Okay, that's lovely. All right, well, I think, unless there's anything else you wanted to add to this discussion? No? Okay, all right then. So thank you, Kat, and thank you, Caroline. Now back to Julie to close the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annie, and to everyone who participated in our sessions today. How great to hear from our alumni, who not only found the college influence their next steps, but who are still being influenced today, whether that's to rejoin us or to hire a new generation of apprentices. I'm really encouraged as well by the passion of those from industry, who I know represent hundreds of other employers in pushing for a fairer society. As Annie has highlighted, there will be plenty of opportunities to engage with this strategy, both within the work you do, wherever in our group you happen to do it, or by joining one of the groups looking to accelerate a particular part of it. We want fairer futures to become part of every decision we make, every investment we put forward, every bid we aim to secure. The benefits are too significant for us to be passive. We must all become ethical activists to ensure we deliver our aims and drive fairness in our communities. Thank you. And on the subject of thanking you, such an amazing video, let's watch it one more time.
For over a year, the world has been suffering. We know how tough it has been for you and your loved ones. In March 2020, as the campuses of MK College closed for most students, there was a challenge to overcome. As we emerge on the other side, we wanted to say thank you to all staff, students, employers and partners who played a part. Take Hayden, for example. He's part of the tireless IT team that got laptops to students who needed them. Thanks, guys. Then there's the teachers.
Everyone awake? Excellent. Let's get started.
This is Clifford,
So,
just one of hundreds of you who learned a completely different way of working on the fly. I mean, come on. It would have been easy to play favourites, but our team fulfilled their responsibility to everyone.
How many more of these do the prisons need?
I'm not going to lie to you, we need a lot more.
Sue was part of the team that made sure every prison got what it needed. And all the hard work to get us through was followed by hard work to get us ready. The estates team got the environment ready, and we helped get a new crop of students ready.
We did it. We just wrapped our first virtual open event.
So as we prepare to finish this academic year and look forward to brighter times ahead, we have two simple words for everyone who helped to get us here.
Thank you.